viewers, and welcome to Metalworld Channel. We have with us today Mr. Pankaj Kumar. Mr. Pankaj Kumar is CEO of Sterlite Copper, and earlier he was in zinc business too. So we can get a fairly good idea about these industries from Mr. Pankaj Kumar. Welcome, Mr. Pankaj Kumar, to our show.
Thank you.
And straight away, I will ask you, sir, the first question. Now the industry is almost 3 months in the lockdown, and gradually now starting to open up. What is the status of the copper industry today, sir?
So this COVID issue has had a huge economic disruption in our industry. In the month of April, we had absolutely zero market. In the May, it slightly picked up to say 40%. In June, we are expecting around 70%. Going forward, it gradually, maybe Q2, sometime it will go back to the normal operations. Some industries have opened up. In April and May, there was hardly any industries who had opened up. They are now starting. We saw the opening up, say around end of May and June. People have opened up. They have started to produce. Of course, there's an issue of the migrant labor. People have left and gone to their hometown. Many industries are waiting for them to come back or managing with the local manpower, whatever is available. So I expect that in the month of June, it will be gradually coming back to normal. Sometime in Q2, I expect the copper industry to get back to its pre-COVID position.
Oh, that's great. I mean, if 70% of the industry is working, but sir, what about the demand? Do you think the demand is restored or getting
No,
restored?
it's not. That is one thing which is really bothering us. The consumption has not increased. See, the copper that we produce, say about 30-35% goes into the housing sector, 30-35% goes into retail, and the balance goes into the power and infrastructure sector. So while the government has announced a lot of measures in the infrastructure sector, the demand there has picked up, like transformers, power transformers, etc. But on the retail and on the housing sector, the demand has not picked up. So unless there's a pull from the market, the consumer starts consumption, or the consumption is aided by some measures by the government that they provide, or when things become a little more normal and people start buying out things like white goods, cars, etc., the demand will not exactly pick up to the levels it was before. So we'll have to wait for a little more longer to see how this COVID ends out, because whatever speculation people are giving today, it's all only speculation. Nobody can go by that speculation. We have to just wait and see how it unfolds in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. In fact, now people are saying that we have to live up with the COVID and COVID with us for a long time. So
Yes.
we have to learn living with the COVID only. Sir, another thing is about the financing of the companies. I mean, financing of the industry. The recently announced 20 lakh crore package by the Indian government. How far it is going to be helpful for the copper industry?
No, it will be very helpful because a lot of MSMEs in the copper sector, there are a whole lot of them, somewhere around 1,000 MSMEs are there. They are definitely going to benefit from this measure by the government. And also that the Prime Minister announced the Atmanirbhar campaign, or the vocal for local kind of campaign, which is going to help us immensely. Today, there are about 30 to 40% of our consumption is being imported. Although we have companies in India like Sterlite Copper and also Birla Copper, Hindustan Copper, which can produce and meet all the demands that India requires today. But as you know, Sterlite Copper is closed and we are waiting the decision. But once that happens, these three companies can meet all the demand for copper for the next 4 to 5 years. We don't need to import at all. So the government is very right in promoting the local industries, giving all sops to them so that they come up, produce efficiently, match the demand and the rates of imports, and meet all domestic demand.
Obviously. Sir, this road towards going to the normalcy is a long road, and during this journey, we will definitely require some help and some support from the government and policymakers. What support exactly the copper industry requires from the policymakers or the government, for that matter?
Yeah. So most of the countries today are looking at their own economy, how to boost their economy so that they become more and more self-dependent rather than looking outside. And India is no exception. Prime Minister is very vocal, very openly has said that he wants the Indian industries to grow. Now for copper, there are just a couple of things. One is that there is only 4% of copper concentrate available in the country, which is
Hmm.
with Hindustan Copper. The
Hmm.
96% of the copper concentrate from where we make copper is imported. Now that imports comes at a cost.
Oh.
Except Chile, all the other countries we import at a 2.5% import duty.
Hmm.
However, the copper primary copper products are imported in the country from people places like Japan at just 0.5%. So it's not a level playing field. On one hand, we are importing copper concentrate from which we make copper at 2.5%, but the finished copper is coming into the country at 0.5% because of
Hmm.
the Japan FTA.
Yeah.
So the demand for the entire copper industry is that we should have a level playing field with all imports coming into the country. Most of the countries who produce copper have made their imports at 0%, like Japan, China. They're the major makers of copper. There, the concentrate is imported at zero duty. So our demand is that the copper concentrate import into our country should also be at zero to make us at a level playing field with the other imports. The other is the Japan FTA, which allows any kind of copper to come into the country at 0.5%, should be looked into.
Yeah, yeah. This FTA, I think it creates a sort of a contradiction.
It does, and it
Import.
actually makes our product a little uncompetitive.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. And a lot of copper also comes by the indirect route also. Countries which are not under FTA export it to the FTA countries, and then from there it comes to India.
It
So,
does, it does, it does. Because see, Japan does not have any copper concentrate, no mines, nothing.
hmm,
They
hmm,
import their copper concentrate from other countries,
hmm.
make these products, and they are coming into the country at just 0.5%. So they
Ah,
are at a huge advantage, whereas we suffer a lot on this account.
okay, okay. Sir, generally, how do you see the future of copper industry in India on a long-term
See,
basis?
yeah, see the copper in the country, the copper per capita consumption is about at zero point 0.6.
Hmm.
The world average is at about 3.1.
Okay.
There is a huge potential for India to consume copper,
Hmm.
and copper consumption grows with the GDP. Whatever GDP rate, the copper consumption goes at the same rate. Also, we are going to have, as people say, a lot of electrical vehicles in the country. The infrastructure is opening up. The railways is going in a big way. They are going to expand. All these require copper. So there is a huge potential for copper to grow in the country.
Hmm, hmm.
Like if you see the global grows at about 1.5 to 2%, but in India the growth is at least 4 to 5%,
Yeah.
just 1 or 2% less than the GDP growth. So what we expect that in the next year, I mean, thanks to COVID or whatever, all the industries have looked into their own processes, their efficiencies, and they have corrected. The industries who survive this into
Yeah.
next year, they are the ones who are going to be innovative, focus on strategy, have the right motivated team with them. And
Hmm.
21 is going to be a great year for all industries, not only copper.
Yeah, let's hope so, sir. And but how much time would you give for copper industry to come back on the track?
So I would say Q2 would be a kind of a period in which we will come back to slowly at the same level at pre-COVID levels.
Okay.
Q4 and going into the next year, we'll see a growth in the copper demand.
Okay. So from say October onwards, you will see a growth in the copper demand. That's what you
So
are
growth
saying.
October onwards will be at the same level at which we were at
Yeah.
pre-COVID levels.
Okay.
But going into Q4 and H1 of next year, there is going to be a growth, definitely.
Okay. So that's great. That if that optimism is there in the industry, it is better. So, sir, anyway, thanks very much for speaking to us. And it was a really very interesting conversation because you are saying that the copper industry is all set to come back on the track after one or two quarters. So
That's correct. That's
that's
correct.
a great news and great statement you have made. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So here was Mr. Pankaj Kumar. He was very optimistic about the growth of the copper industry. As such, he says that the issues like migrant labor and the demand restoration are there, but they are slowly getting neutralized or they are slowly getting solved. And from quarter three, he says the copper industry would come back, try to come back on the track, and from the last quarter of this financial year and the next first quarter of the next financial year, we'll see the growth of in copper industry. Thank you very much.